Hello, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am so excited about this series of videos where over the next 9 videos, I am going to chat with a member of our goal setting community about their Enneagram type and how it relates to their goals. So I'm gonna give a quick intro to what is the Enneagram and what does it mean? What am I gonna talk about in these videos? I'm gonna plop this intro in front of each of the videos in case you only click on the one that is your type. But if you are watching more than one of these Enneagram videos, click the timestamp in the description to jump to the chat part of the video. So let's start with what is the Enneagram. The Enneagram is a personality test that breaks people up into 9 distinct personality types. And just like other personality tests, each of us have a little bit of all 9 types in us somehow, but the Enneagram pulls forward which one is your core desire, which one is dominant over the rest, your core desires, your core fears, what really gets you going. And again, just like every other personality test, there is so much information out there, and everything you read, every book, every article is going to give you different information about the different types. And so there might be some things I share that you completely relate to and some things I don't relate to, and then there might be some things in the other type videos that you relate to as well. I also want to make sure you know there is a lot of information related to the Enneagram that we're not going to get into in these videos. There are subtypes, there are wings. Wings just mean that you have a secondary Enneagram that is one of the 2 types next to yours. You do actually lean to both of them, but you usually have a stronger one. So if you are very interested in how this can impact your goals, I would encourage you to watch not just your type, but also the 2 next to your type that could be your wings. But we, again, are not going to go into that, and I'm not chatting with each individual about their wing type. I also want to remind you, I'm not an expert. This is not my area of expertise. I did do a lot of research and preparation for these videos, and most of the information that I am sharing is coming from a couple of places. So the first one is this book that I read. It's called, the lighting is not totally working. It's called The Honest Enneagram by Sarah Jane Case, who I also love following on Instagram. I read about all of the types in this book and used a lot of it in my conversations with everybody, as well as this one, which is Take Care of Your Type by Christina Wilcox. So a lot of what I reference can be found in these books if you're looking for more information. I also follow a lot of great Instagram accounts that share a lot of both fun and helpful things related to the Enneagram. And so over the course of the videos, I will pop up some fun things, and you'll see the Instagram handle captioned at the bottom, and I will leave the Instagram accounts linked down below as well. Those are sort of the ongoing places that I get my Enneagram information and just learn a little bit more about myself. So the last thing I want to let you know is as we go through each of the chats, I'm going to be talking about that type as a whole, some of the strengths of that type and how it relates to goals, and then some of the struggles that that type will have and how to overcome that to help you achieve your goals. One of the biggest takeaways in all the research I did for these videos and as it relates to the Enneagram is we're not trying to change ourselves. We're trying to learn how we operate and what drives us and how to utilize that to achieve our goals. And that one of the main reasons why we do struggle to achieve our goals is that we try to do it like everybody else, right? Maybe you watch videos of people on YouTube or follow them on Instagram and you try to achieve your goals in the exact same way that they are, but you're a totally different personality type than them. And there is a quote from one of the books that I don't want to mess up. It says, "One of the biggest mistakes I see my clients make is that they try to get the results they want using the tactics of someone else." So at the end of the day, I hope that these videos help you learn a little bit more about yourself and some tactics that can help you achieve your goals based on your Enneagram personality type. All right. Hello, Megan. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you.
Yay. We're going to kick it off with just a quick introduction. So I would love for you to introduce yourself, where you live, what you do for work, and what you do for fun.
Yeah, my name is Megan. I live in Northwest Arkansas, and I work for HR. I work in HR for a nonprofit based out of Houston, Texas.
And that's cool. So you work remote then?
I do. So I used to live in Houston for several years, and my husband got a new job during COVID, and we moved. And because everybody was remote, they said, "You can keep working for us." And I said, "Sounds good. I don't want to look for a new job." So that's worked out really well for us. For fun, this area is very outdoorsy. So I love, going to the biking trails and hiking, and I also enjoy checking out the local coffee spots, and my favorite drink is a chai latte. So I usually try that at every different place in town. So that's what I like to do for fun.
I love that. I love that so much, having like the same thing you try at every single place.
I definitely have a favorite place because of the chai latte that they have. Like, it's my favorite location for that.
That's awesome. That's super fun. And then if you're comfortable sharing, I would love to hear a couple of your top goals for 2022.
Yeah. So my biggest goal that I've already accomplished this year is completing a certification in HR for my work, which I was really nervous about because I have a high fear of failure. So, wanting to be successful in all the things that I do, but worrying that if I fail the exam, like having to admit to my company that I have to take it again or whatever. So, but I passed the first time, so that was really exciting, and I studied really hard for it. So I was really excited about that. And then being more intentional with my family, especially I have 3 girls, so being intentional with time with them, which is, a struggle working from home. Work-life balance is not always the best. So trying to make intentional time with them and being active with them. And then just being more active myself, doing better exercising, water, and stuff like that.
Love that. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. If you are also a type 9, if you relate, I want you to comment below and say hi, all of the fellow type 9s. And before we jump into things, and I mentioned this in the intro, but for you, Megan, every individual has all the types within all of us. And so there might be some things I say today that you completely relate to, and there might be some things that you're like, that's not really me at all. And that is totally normal. And same thing, if you feel like you identify as a type 9, and there are some things that I say today that you're like, that's not me. That's very normal. In fact, what I did read also was that the type 9s actually are the most likely to have multiple other types within them. In fact, it's the hardest type to type of all of them, which is a great segue into my next question for you, is if you remember how you discovered the Enneagram and how you determined your type.
Yeah. So I don't remember the exact moment that I did, but I have a friend that is into it. And so I was just, I took a test to see where I fell. And then several YouTubers talk about it as well. So that's, I'm sure, likely where I found about it. I don't remember if I took a test first or read about them first, but I have always identified as a 9.
Okay.
Because I'm very much like the peacemaker side of it. I want everybody to be happy and to agree. I don't like conflict much, which is hard in HR, but I think that's why I agree with what you said about 9s having lots of different things, because while I don't like conflict, I figure it out, and it stresses me out, but I figure it out.
That is what I read about all the type 9s, is that they tend to have all of them within. And I've also mentioned this in other videos, but the tests are great and they're a great place to start, but reading about them is really the best way to figure out which one you identify with.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So we have a couple fun pop-ups just to see some fun things. These are Instagram accounts I love to follow. So this first one is Enneagram types at amusement parks. So for the type 9, it says the only one not stressed out, which actually feels a little bit backwards, but do you feel like you relate to that?
I mean, I think that's true. And maybe it's not that I'm not stressed out, but I don't show it that I'm stressed out. I'm very calm, cool, and collected on the outside. And so I think that that's probably accurate. But I'm also I don't stress about, sticking to a schedule for vacation, or that's not a big deal for me. So I think that's probably accurate.
Okay. So that's why it's for that, something that's supposed to be fun, right? You're like, why are we stressed about it?
Yes.
That makes sense. Okay.
Agreed.
A couple more here that are literally just for fun are things that the Enneagram type loves. So there's 3 different versions of this. The first one for type 9s is taking time for self-care.
Yes, 100%.
Yes. The next one is pretty plants. Are you a plant fan?
I have a black thumb. I cannot keep a plant alive for the life of me. I had these ferns one time, which I think are supposed to be pretty easy to care for, and I definitely killed them.
Well, that's okay. I killed a succulent, so yeah. You're not alone. You're not alone.
That's right.
And then the last one here is athleisure wear.
100%.
Yeah. I feel like after the last 2 years, we all kind of love those things. But yes. That's really funny.
I definitely have yoga pants on with my professional shirt because that's how
always.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who wears real pants at home though?
Exactly.
That's, I don't know. Exactly. There's probably some type. One of you out there is I am type blank and I wear real pants at home.
That's
not me.
Right. Me neither.
Let's talk about the overview of the type 9, which you already touched on a lot of this. But the type 9 is known as the peacemaker. where their basic desires are to be unaffected, at peace, and connected. And the basic fears are creating rifts with people that cannot be repaired.
Yeah, I think especially the connection parts. One of the reasons that I enjoy working in HR, which is not everybody's cup of tea, but it's because I enjoy connecting with people and caring for them. So in the position that I'm in, a lot of what I do is, figuring out programs or policies to help care and engage our employees. And so that can, like, making connections and caring for our employees is really important to me. So I think that is why I thrive in the job that I'm in.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And then similarly, the ultimate motivators of a type 9 is to resist conflict, keep a comfortable, balanced environment, and avoid disturbing harmony.
Agreed.
Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is talk about strengths. This is a quote from one of the Enneagram books that I really loved, that it's not honest to pretend that we don't have flaws, but it's also not honest to pretend we don't have strengths. But a lot of times we don't like to talk about our strengths. We immediately go to what's wrong with the type. What do we need to fix and change? So we're going to start with the positives, and we're going to start with the strengths and talk about how they relate to goals and how you can lean into them more to help you with your goals. So the first one is that type 9s do a lot of observing. They observe a lot of people. They kind of take a step back and watch everybody. And so they have a lot of wisdom from that observation that they really can utilize and tap into when it comes to making decisions. And actually, it's probably why you're great at HR.
Yeah, I definitely think that observing is what I'm very much in meetings, like the sit back and listen. I'm a good listener. And I feel like that completely aligns with that particular strength.
So the next one I have here is that type 9s are typically very considerate and inclusive. Again, type that HR, that really makes sense to me. What I read was that type 9s don't typically want to be leaders, but they actually make really good leaders because of these traits.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
I think
they don't want to. It's like the type 8s are the ones that they want to be the leader, but the 9s are the ones that would make a better leader because of these qualities.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that's true. I always want everybody to be included, and one of my mottos in HR is to I don't remember. It's about inclusion. Sorry, I can't remember.
Okay. It'll come to you.
I'm sure it will.
Yeah. Well, if it comes to you, it comes to you. You let us know. Okay. The next one is that they are kind and non-judgmental. And so what I wanted to add here for you, especially as it pertains to goals, is the reminder to be this way to yourself. I feel like type 9s are probably really good about this with other people and being like, well, they probably have a lot going on, or they, and they're very like kind and non-judgmental, and just working on doing that for you.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I struggle with, being kind to myself. That's the end of it, because, if I have a setback with one of my goals, I just get frustrated. And sometimes that can put me into like a spiral of not wanting to
do anything,
continue on with it, or I take a break from it for a while just because that failure is hard for me to, be kind to myself about.
Yeah. So maybe it's practicing that, like, okay, what if it was somebody else, right? If this was your friend, or if this was somebody you were talking to in HR and they failed at a goal. I want to put that in quotes, because probably when you think you fail, it's probably really not that big of a failure. It's probably something small, like you said, a small setback. And like, what would you say to somebody else? Maybe you do need a day off, take a break, but then get back to it the next day.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that especially that, being kind to others and non-judgmental lens to what I do, because I can step back and ask the questions like, is this really our perception of this person, or this, whatever happened, is that like a character flaw, or is it like they were having a bad day? Like, let's give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, for sure. And so it's just doing that for us too, right? We're just having a bad day. Sometimes we just have bad days. That happens to all of us.
That's right.
So the next thing we're going to move into is struggles. But before we do that, I want to pop up another quote, which is, the core goal of using the Enneagram is to grow into your best, most authentic self. So when we talk about struggles, we're not trying to change ourselves. We're not trying to change the struggles and not have them. If that is our type, we're going to have them. They are going to be there. It's just working through them and figuring out ways to utilize them to help us work on our goals. So the first one for type 9s is saying yes too fast. and saying yes to a lot of things.
Yes.
Yes.
100%.
Yeah.
One of the things I'm working on at work is giving realistic expectations for when I can get something done. And that's providing expectations to other people, especially because I want to do all the things and do them all quickly. And I can't because, things take time.
Yep.
And so, saying yes too fast is definitely a struggle of mine for sure.
So, and for work, it is probably a little bit more difficult to navigate than it is like personal things.
Mhm.
I think for personal things, you don't owe anybody an answer right away. And so one thing that you can practice is saying, let me get back to you. And
Yeah.
that way you still might end up saying yes, but like take the time to really decide if you want to, or can you even say yes before you do. You don't owe a response immediately.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a good tip there if somebody else at type 9 feels like they struggle with this. The next one, which we kind of already talked about, is wanting to avoid conflict, right? Type 9s want to avoid conflict. I love that you already said though, that you know it's inevitable. And so you don't like it and it stresses you out, but you work through it.
Yeah. And I think one of those things, like from the amusement park, like I'm the only one not stressed out. Like I'm not stressed out on the outside, but sometimes I'm stressed out on the inside. And it's usually related to conflict, like not agreeing what ride to ride on or not, that type of thing. And so, just being realistic with myself about what my reactions might be helps, I think. And preparing in advance helps as well. Like thinking of scenarios that might come from a conflict helps too.
That makes a lot of sense. That's a good tip. I kind of wrote down, first off, like you said, conflict is inevitable. Like life, like we're going to have conflict. So type 9s, like you can't avoid it forever. It's going to happen. And so it's having ways to work through it. And one of the ideas that I had was working through it on a smaller scale to get better at doing it on a bigger scale, right? So like, yes, picking your battles, right? Maybe at the amusement park, you don't really care what ride you ride first,
Right.
but start with something smaller. Like bring up a small struggle that you're having or a small conflict that you want to overcome. And then you'll kind of build that muscle that you will get better at it when it is a bigger thing.
Yeah, I agree. One of my struggles also is avoiding conflict within myself, like that what I'm thinking or feeling or observing is kind of in conflict or, is in dissidence with whatever I think should be. And so, resolving that conflict within myself sometimes is hard too.
That totally makes sense. Kind of like we were talking about being kind to yourself, taking what you do in the external and like, how do you handle that within yourself? And so that conflict, you're going to have to resolve it. Otherwise it's going to eat you up, right? You've got to like do something about it. You can't just like let it fester and avoiding it's not the answer, especially internally.
Right. Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. That's a great point. The last struggle, which is related to the first one, saying yes too fast, but even regardless of other people's expectations, type 9s tend to overextend themselves and try to do all of the goals, all of the things, all of the time.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
One of the things that, especially like when I was focusing on studying for my certification program, realizing that I couldn't do everything right now because I'm so focused on this one thing was hard. Like being willing and accepting that I can set this other stuff aside for a moment, for a season, so that I can focus on this one thing. It was hard because I felt like I was letting myself down or I was letting somebody else down. And I'm a peacemaker, so I don't want anybody to be upset with me or to, perceive that maybe I'm failing when really I've intentionally set something aside for now. So I think that's definitely true in that case, but also it, like you said, related to that first, like saying yes too fast and committing to too many things. I definitely do, especially at work. I'm a little bit better in my personal life, but work, for sure.
It's different skills for sure in both places. I think you kind of touched on, which I had completely not even, when I was prepping for this, I was actually trying not to think about the people. I was just like looking at the type as a whole, but your example, it like goes exactly to what I was going to give as like the tip, which is first off to prioritize, right? Like you can't do it all. You cannot. So we've got to prioritize. and then reminding yourself that it's temporary, right? That you are doing it until this time period, and then you can change your mind and do
Mhm.
something else, or, shift your priorities, right? So for you, it was like, okay, yes, right now, this is the only goal I'm focusing on, which, by the way, yes, it was the only main goal, but you also were like, working and momming and like all the other things you need
All
to
the
do in life, right? But like for goals, it was like, I'm going to focus on this one goal, but it was for a certain period of time. And then as soon as that test was over, then it was like, okay, now I can go back and start to prioritize and focus on some of my other goals.
Yeah.
All right. So there was another little pop-up here that I actually meant to pop up earlier, but just for fun, which is common thoughts of each Enneagram type. And so for the type 9, it's please don't make me decide.
Yeah, 100%, because I don't like to decide what is for dinner or what restaurant we're gonna go to. I tell my partner, I'm like, I just need you to decide because I really don't care. Food for me, like I like enjoying food, but it's just because I need to eat and I could care less what we eat.
Right.
So the decision fatigue can be difficult.
Yeah. So I think that it probably partly stems from knowing that making the decision might result in conflict because one person is not going to like the decision that you make. But
Mhm.
knowing that, how can you eliminate more decision fatigue in your day to day? I used to think things like picking out your outfit the night before was kind of silly. Like I was like, it's not that complicated. It's not that deep. Like, why do I need to do it the night before? But then I started to learn that it is still a decision. It's still a decision that you have to make. And so if you can make that decision at the end of the day before, when again, you can, because it's not that deep. It's not like a big decision that you're making. But then in the morning, when you don't want to waste your decision energy on something like picking out an outfit, it's already done. And
Yeah.
so thinking about like, maybe it's if you can't avoid picking what's for dinner because you're not going to let somebody else in your household decide, it's making all those decisions for the whole month so that you don't have to deal with it on a day-to-day basis.
Definitely. I started recently doing meal planning on a monthly calendar, but only by the week so that I
Okay.
could see what we had done recently. And so that made it easier to think like, okay, let's not do that for the 10th time this month. Let's think about something else. So that's been really helpful. And it's also probably why I have like the same shirt in 5 colors because I don't have to pick what shirt I like that fits me well. I just have to pick which color I want to wear today. So
I
that
love
helps
that.
too.
Yeah, if that is something that is going to cause more like stress on you or just take up energy that you don't want to spend on that, then do it at a different time, right?
Right.
All right, so that is kind of the strengths and struggles of the type 9, but I wanted to give you the opportunity if there's any goal question that you have or any other struggles that you feel like you struggle with that you would love to talk through.
I think one of the things that I struggle with is, deciding, especially like at the beginning of the year when we're doing like our or at quarterly resets or anything like
Yeah.
that, like deciding like where to focus
Yeah.
or what goals seem important. Like there's all these things that could be important.
Yeah.
So where to focus is really hard for me. So I want to do all the things and I want
Yeah.
to say yes to everything. So that's one of my struggles. So then I don't do anything well.
Yep.
I do like bits and pieces of things. I was able to focus on my goal because it was work related. Like I needed to do it for work. But in general, I think I struggle with, focusing in on one thing because I want to do all the things.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think going back to that, like overextending, but knowing, it's one thing to know that you can't. It's another thing to be like, okay, well, how do I pick which things I'm going to focus on? And so the first part of it is a mindset, and it's that reminder that it is temporary. And so maybe for you, for other type 9s, yearly goals might not be a great option. Like that might be committing to something for a whole year might just feel way, way, way too overwhelming to make a
Mhm.
decision that you're committing to for 12 whole months. Like that just might be too much. And so maybe really, really honing in on the quarterly goal system might be better for a type 9. It doesn't mean that you can't go through Power Sheets prep work or like figure out what's important to you in December, but not saying like, I'm going to focus on this for the whole year. Like, let's take a step back, maybe just start for the quarter. But you did even mention maybe that's even still too much, right? Like that even committing to something for 90 days might feel like it's a little bit too much. I did do a video a while back all about like how to prioritize your goals. And so going and revisiting that with the mindset of right now. I think that's one of the other things I've tried to do a better job of reminding people is sometimes when you watch videos, and not even just mine, but watch videos, listen to podcasts, you're thinking of your right now when you're processing whatever you're focused on right now. And in 90 days, you're going to be in a different place. So maybe as a type 9, watching that prioritization video might be a quarterly activity that you go into it with like, okay, with this quarter in mind, now I'm going to prioritize. I'm going to watch this video thinking about what my current priorities are. It also might just be setting a limit, right? So maybe you know yourself based on your work schedule and your home life, you can only have 2 goals per quarter that you focus on. And that might not be the right number for you or anybody watching it. What is that number though? Like, what is that limit? And just have that kind of hard limit. And then it's, again, reminding yourself it's only 90 days. That 90 days is going to fly by. I think that once you start doing that, and maybe like this exam would help you a little bit, just start realizing the benefit of it, right? When you start realizing the benefit of focusing in on something for a short time period and seeing massive progress, you'll be more excited to do it again.
Yeah. And I think that goes back to, providing realistic expectations for myself. My partner was recently deployed for a few months. And so I had all the girls at home by myself, and the reality of being able to focus on different things is not realistic. Really, my biggest goal is surviving. So like getting them to all the places on time so that I can get to work on time, right, and all of that. So I think you're completely right. Like being realistic with what I can accomplish in a shorter amount of time might be the best way to go.
And I think you said something that gave me a thought, is that it doesn't always have to be the same. In the example you gave, your like capacity is so much lower, right? And then there might be a quarter that it is much higher because you have extra help or you have other things going on. And reminding yourself that it doesn't always have to be the same amount of progress every single time chunk. And whether that's a week, a month, a quarter, a year, there's going to be times that you get more done because you have the support and resources, and there's going to be times that you don't.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And not pressuring yourself to get that every single time, which I feel like we can all relate to on some level. I can see for your type specifically why that would be a really helpful reminder.
Yes, I agree.
The last pop-up I have, just to end it for fun, is notes for each type. So just reminders that we all need to hear. So for the type 9, it's kind of hard to read on that yellow, but it says your voice matters. So I think just reminding that, like, well, yes, sitting back and observing gives you all the wisdom. Like, we do want to hear from you and hear, what you have to say and contribute.
Yeah, I think that's so true because I'm such an observer. I don't always voice my opinion, and that can be detrimental to me sometimes because it makes the perception of, I don't have anything to contribute, but it's really more about, I just want everybody to be able to talk, and I want everybody's opinion to be heard so that we can make a decision, collectively.
Right.
It's definitely a struggle for sure.
Any last minute comments, tips, things that you've discovered that works for you with goals that other type 9s might benefit from?
I think that just being willing to accept the phase of life that you're in, being realistic, which probably goes back to being kind to yourself that you talked about earlier. Being realistic with yourself about what you can accomplish, which I definitely struggle with, especially in certain areas of my life. So being realistic is really important. And then just taking time for yourself to decompress or, exercise or, whatever makes you feel better. That's a new learning of mine just in the last couple of weeks. So
Sure. Absolutely. We're always learning, right? We're always learning. We're always growing.
For sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Megan, so much again for being here. If you found this video helpful, especially if you're a type 9, please give it a thumbs up before you head out. And if you're new here, please click that subscribe button. Yes, this is the end of our Enneagram series. We are done with this one with type 9, but I do upload new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Thank you.